Super excited about the Christmas Carol podcast that's going to be out again November 22nd. Super exciting project. I know it won a ton of awards last year. Um,
Yes, it did.
this story has been around forever. What is it about that story that really resonates with people year in and year out?
I think it's the warmth, the compassion, and the conviction that people can change for the better.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's a story that we all want to hear.
yeah, yeah. It is a
The
beautiful
great, the
story.
great stories are about the human spirit, aren't they?
They really are. They really are. It is just one of those timeless classics, which I would imagine brings its own share of challenges, right? When you're taking such a familiar story that people can almost quote from end to end, bring it to this new platform. What does this podcast bring that's new and different to this story, do you think?
It has its own energy. It has its own. When you get a show that starts with a good script, and anything starts with the word in principio erat verbum, actually verbum, isn't it really? Well, in the beginning is the word,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
and once you have a great story, then you can riff on it.
Mm-hmm.
Shakespeare, we do Shakespeare in 100 different ways. The text is so strong.
Yeah.
It will stand almost any mutilation you choose to do. This one, this one knows where the heart of the story
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
and it never loses sight of the heart.
Yeah.
It's a lovely uh, rendition. I was going to say, but that's the wrong word to use these days, isn't it? Um, Recension.
Yeah.
It's a lovely recension of the
Mhm.
story.
Mhm. Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. And I would
And it
imagine
was a joy to do. Great fun to do. Um, as you probably guess, I'm rather naughty sometimes in recording studios, but they managed to excise my ramblings and my occasional obscenities, and lo and behold, it actually holds up quite well, I believe.
that's
But it's the
fantastic.
heart of it's Dickens,
Hmm. Hmm.
and it's a it's approach that the producers, they loved the story, they
Yeah.
knew what the story is about, they they wanted to tell it in their own way.
Yeah.
Now, you can't always do that. I remember I was invited to tell to do a reading of Luke chapter 2.
Mm.
Um,
Hmm.
and I said, look, I would like to give you this, not in the standard way. And there were in the same country shepherds abiding in the field. I don't want to do that. What I want to do is to tell you a story. Now, there were in the same country shepherds in the fields, keeping watch over their flock by night. And an angel of the Lord came unto them.
Oh.
And the glory of God shone about them, and they were sore afraid. You know,
Oh my goodness.
it doesn't work for some people. That doesn't work. What they want it is the old traditional solid way of doing it.
Well, I
But
tell you what.
in the end, it's a storyteller saying, "You won't believe what happened. The most extraordinary thing that ever happened on the earth came to ordinary shepherds abiding in the field." And wow, what do? You're an ordinary Middle Eastern shepherd looking after the fields, keeping away the lions and the wolves and all this other thing, and suddenly, wow, there's a science fiction moment,
Yeah,
you know.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, and I tell you what,
Right.
the story works for me. You can come over to my house anytime on Christmas Eve and just read that. It was so beautiful. So,
Oh, that's very kind of you. Very kind.
but I did
Anyway,
go ahead.
go on. Your turn. Your turn.
So I did want to ask you because obviously you love the written word, and I would imagine reading from Dickens, the stories are really meant to be read out loud. Is there a certain joy that comes from reading someone who just sets the scene so well and knows the language so well and knows that people are going to be reading this around the Christmas tree? Is there a special joy in diving into that language like that?
Oh, yes, there is. Dickens is such an interesting writer. I mean, he was writing for these, he was writing sort of episodes for a weekly magazine.
Mhm, mhm.
And sometimes he would start off um, with a line and then contradict it. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times.
Yeah.
Uh, Sometimes he creates a character, like, for instance, in Great Expectations, Joe Gargery. Joe Gargery starts off being a big, lumbering, sort of not very smart fellow, and he suddenly realizes Gargery is a holy fool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gargery is the one constant element of
Yeah.
goodness, friendship, truth in the whole thing. And he's discovering it as he's writing.
Mm.
He's Dickens is. I mean, I have friends of mine who are writers, and they say, John, if you want to write, you've got to write notes. Write finding cards full of notes. And then when you're putting it together, refer to all those, and plot your thing. Do not, just riff off. Um, how do you write yourself, by the way?
I do write myself. Yes.
How
And
do you
Dickens is,
write?
I honestly, it's a process where I do sort of think about what's going to come on, but sometimes when I write fiction, I tend to let the characters speak. And sometimes they even shape the story a little bit. I have an idea.
Yes,
I have an outline of where I want to go,
yes,
but the idea of the characters speaking into that journey, I kind of like where they can sometimes take me?
yes, yes, indeed. And that the excitement and the joy of that creative process.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
you know that you're the luckiest man on the planet when when it just happens that way, and you go, oh,
When
oh, yes,
Yeah,
it's
absolutely. Absolutely. It is a joy. And I know that you have had so much opportunity to bring some of these characters to screen, to be part of that creative process. Um, Everybody's familiar with Sala, with Gimli, with these characters that have become so much a part of our culture. But in your audio work, and you've done so much audio work, I am sure that there are some special challenges that come with that just don't come with the screen. You don't have to worry about the makeup that you would with Gimli, I'm sure. But
yeah, thank
but what
God.
is what is special about doing some of this audio work that you've done?
Look, it's the actor's job is to solve the problem. How do we communicate? How do we tell the story? And I love getting up early in the morning to solve those problems. I don't care whether it's on the stage, on a film set, or in a podcast situation. How do we tell the story? How do we keep the energy in there? How do we pace it? How the heck do we know what the pacing should be?
Yeah.
Um, and I'm a I'm a I'm a difficult sort of actor to work with, in the sense that I'm not overly precise. I don't come in and I'm going to give you this performance and you will accommodate my performance. That is what I do. I don't do it like that. I like to try and think the thought each time I open my mouth, and the thought may be slightly different,
Yeah.
and the performance is different. I think that makes it alive. Some actors, some actors don't like that. And that they like certainty, and you can't, they, and once they're off the script, they feel very insecure.
Yeah.
I love it. I love the energy of direct communication, the way that you can anticipate how the other person's thinking and respond to that,
That's
rather
amazing.
than saying, no, I came with my performance. I cannot change the inflection of this. It has to be this way. It may not make sense, but that's what you've got. That's what you bought. Um, I can't do it like that. Uh, I
Well,
love I love that sort of wonderful intercourse between two minds that are
yeah.
trying to make sense of something, and the excitement that comes from that communication.
Well, that's
Uh,
wonderful. And
Probably
clearly it
everything I
is.
drive produces mad.
They need to have someone to keep them on their toes, right?
Right.
Thank you so, so much for your time.